Oh my God!
Yes.
Oh my sweet God in heaven! A working, mother, flushing toilet!
Hello, welcome to a video chat we are doing today for Wolfenstein II, the new Colossus. I've played a very tiny little bit of it, but Nicola has reviewed and played all of it and quite liked it. So Nicola, how are you doing today, first and foremost?
I'm alright, thank you, Chris. I'm full of cold, so you'll have to excuse my nasal voice, but I'm okay, thank you.
Good. Well, I mean, you really liked it.
I did.
So what was the kind of, what exactly was it that kind of made you kind of fall in love with it?
Well, I mean, if I just sort of start from the beginning, so the new Colossus starts immediately after the events of the previous game, The New Order. And I mean, you don't have to have played the previous game if you don't want to, because there is a sort of handy recap that
Yes.
kind of goes through the events of the previous game, and even gives you the choice that you face at the ending. I think it's around about the end of the first chapter, I believe, in the New Order, where you have to make a decision over which one of your crew you're going to save, either Wyatt, the young American, or Fergus, the sort of cantankerous Scot. So you make that decision in the kind of recap cutscene. And then that sets the timeline for the game that you're going to play. Why did I like it? Well, I mean, first of all, it's a very competent shooter. You know, the guns are all, they've got real weight to them. They all have their kind of uses. You've got sort of your sort of more recognisable weapons like a pistol and an SMG, an assault rifle, a shotgun. But there's also the sort of mad experimental weapons like the laser gewehr, which just melts enemies in front of you. And they're all really fun to use. You can dual wield as well for just like complete badassery. Or you can just, you know, go in as you like. So it's a competent shooter, but it's also a fantastic story. I mean, the cutscenes that sort of flesh out a lot of the background and sort of character development are exceptional. It's a really funny game, you know, interspersed with all the quite gruesome and horrific violence that's going on. There's some real comedy in the writing, and a couple of times real laugh out loud stuff that was just totally unexpected and surprising. Now, there's a certain element of that in the New Order, but for some reason this just really seemed to dial it up, and it was just, every time it happened it was just really surprising, and I just loved it. I thought it was great.
Yeah, I mean, I think obviously I've not played that much, but the one scene that's kind of been spoilt by, you know, people on the interwebs and whatnot is the kind of the scene with Frau and her daughter at the start, which that I wasn't expecting the kind of seriousness to it, because obviously the games themselves kind of now don't take themselves completely seriously, but this is quite an emotional scene, and it just kind of, it surprised me a lot, and with it kind of managing to mix a comedy as well, it's like it seems to be a really good balance.
Yeah, I mean, well, Frau Engel is a total comic book villain. I mean, she's great. But yeah, that scene is really quite shocking. I mean, the whole opening of the game is pretty brutal, to be fair. And a lot of the scenes in the game are pretty unflinching. I mean, there is some horrific stuff that goes on. There's some ridiculous stuff as well, like the game takes you to some really surprising locations that are just all a bit bonkers. I mean, it is totally bonkers, but it just seems to work. I mean, the story that's being told is really quite human. Like I say, that my favourite moments really are sort of back on the Evers Hammer, the U-boat that the Resistance have sort of commandeered and are using as their base. there's some, like the where the game really shines is in those sort of quieter moments and sort of interaction that you have with your crew members and through the cutscenes, just sort of building this story and this group of people who are fighting against a horrific ideology, really.
Yeah.
I mean, the game is quite political. I know that the developers, Machine Games,
Yes.
is it? I know they've sort of, I think they've been tongue in cheek when they're saying that they're not making a political statement, because they really are making a political statement. But it works. It kind of works, and there's so many parallels with what's going on in the world at the moment. I don't really talk about that much in my review, because I think in terms of review, it's maybe not necessary for a review, because people are more interested in, how does it play, is the story good, that kind of thing.
Course.
But there are some interesting parallels in there. But it was a really surprising game. Like I say, I've played a lot of the New Order. I haven't actually finished the New Order, but I have played a lot of the New Order, and I really was pleasantly surprised by it. I thought it was a lot of fun, and was interesting. This one, for me, seems to have just taken it to another level. I mean, like I say, in terms of the gunplay, it is an exceptional example of it, but it's just the rest of it, really. It all gels into this really surprising game. I mean, it's probably one of my favourite games I've played this year. It's that good. And in terms of FPSs I've played, it's definitely one of the best I've played in a long time.
I mean, it's quite. I mean, obviously there's no multiplayer, and normally when there is, the story is like 5 to 6 hours. But this is quite a long story, isn't it?
It is quite lengthy. I mean, it took me quite a while to finish it. I think, all in all, I've got about 23 hours in one campaign.
So that's crazy.
But I wouldn't say the game is 23 hours. I think there's been a lot of me wandering around the levels, just trying to understand how the levels have laid out, because there's lots of different ways you can approach a level. There's two sort of basic ways. You can go in stealth, or you can go in guns blazing. But both of those options have got different ways that you can do it, because you can sneak through air vents, you can climb to higher ground, you can approach these maps in different ways. So a lot of my time has been spent just wandering around maps, just sort of saying, I could have got through there if I'd have paid more attention. Or also, I mean, there is an obscene amount of collectibles. For the completionist, this game is going to drive you insane, because there are a horrific number. I think there's something like 140 collectibles in terms of just picking up items like, I don't know, recording or a newspaper clipping or something like that. But then there's also the gold, the Enigma codes, records, Max houses, toys. There's lots and lots and lots of collectibles. So a good portion of my 23 hours has been pootling around levels, just seeing if I could find collectibles, just because it was fun to kind of look around the levels. So there's plenty there. And there's even some after game stuff. So once you've finished the main story, there is some post-game stuff, so a few sort of side quests that are thrown at you. I mean, these are mainly focused around going and taking out Nazi sort of commanders who are a bit higher up, and there's like a kill board with pictures of these top Nazi officials that you can go and take out. And I mean, it is essentially just replaying levels that you've already played, and maybe trying to do it without raising an alarm or whatever. So I mean, there's not a huge amount of post-game content, but there is some post-game content. So I, in terms of how long the campaign is, I couldn't actually tell you. My gut is it's probably around 16 hours, maybe.
Which is excellent. That's a great kind of length of campaign.
It's pretty lengthy, and it's kind of set up for, the ending kind of sets you up for another game. I mean, I know that Machine Games have always planned this as a kind of trilogy, haven't they? So
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, I've seen some criticism of the ending from a few other people. However, I thought it was quite a fitting ending. Actually, I was quite satisfied by it. So
Yeah.
make
Good.
of that what you will.
Yeah, well, there you go, guys. You can read Nicola's full review on godofthegeek.com. And yeah, thanks for joining me,
No
Nick.
problem.
And thank you all for listening. Take care. Bye bye.
Bye.